Welcome to the Beacon Way podcast, where your hosts, Jennifer Christensen and Adrian Wilkerson, talk shop about what really works in today's digital marketing world. As the co-founders of Beacon Media and Marketing, Jennifer and Adrian have been a part of digital marketing since its early stages in the mid-2000s. Tune in as they shine light on what works and what doesn't in the ever-changing world of digital marketing for small businesses.
Back to the Beacon Way podcast. I have a really special guest here today, Kelly Farrell with Design Room. So today we're going to talk about the power of brand. And that is something that marketers love to talk about because we understand how important brand is to the overall success for our clients. It isn't something I would say generally super well understood even by most of the clients. There's a lot of different interpretations of brand or what they think brand might be. So Kelly is definitely an expert in this field. I was telling her before we got started today that one of the things that we love to do at Beacon is to partner with and to network and meet other people in the industry that are doing great things that maybe they specialize in something different than what we do. So, we're definitely more of an execution digital marketing company. That's our focus. That's where we put our time and effort and our expertise. And Kelly has gone all in on brand, which I love. I've seen some of her work. If you guys get a chance while you're listening to this to look up Design Room, you're just going to be blown away. It's great stuff.
Thank you, Jennifer. What a nice, warm welcome. So nice.
Yeah. So let's just dig right into it. I want to hear a little bit of your backstory, Kelly, and all of that. But I'd love to hear just why branding? Why did you get it? Why did you get into this? What drew you to this from a passion standpoint?
So we were a generalist firm. I think I've heard you guys talk about this before. It's first 10 years generalist, trying to figure out what you love about the industry. As everything started to shift digital, we had to pick a niche. And within that niche, industry niche, we also had to pick what we wanted to do in that space in order to stand out. So we did all the analysis, looked at all the industries we served, chose healthcare as our area of industry of expertise, and chose branding out of everything we did. That is what we loved. That is what was a good fit for us. I could sell confidently and talk about with passion and do the rigor to get the work done for our clients. And then as we niched in healthcare, we focused on behavioral health. So the story keeps going on as you niche in further.
Yeah.
But we did a whole analysis around it.
When did you guys start to niche? What year?
2010 in there, right around 2010.
Oh, I feel like you were ahead of the trend on that because really 2015, 17 is when I feel like I even started hearing about starting to niche down. Everybody was trying to fight after the same stuff, right?
There's a consultant in our space out of Nashville called David C. Baker. Yeah. He is an expert on experts, and I've been working with him. My business has done his evaluation before, and he has a business evaluation, and I've done all of his training. And really, he said, you got to niche or else you're going to be competing with everybody else all the time. And as soon as the tools like they are now, Canva can do anything,
right.
What are we really going to do to help us stand out and really offer value to our clients? Yeah. So that's the area that we went in. And so it started high. Healthcare is pretty big, right? We were learning from the Cleveland Clinic, from university hospitals. We learned brand guidelines, how to honor the brand, because if we were to break any brand guidelines, we would get fired essentially.
Of course, right.
So that we tried to carry through in our efforts as we started building brand guidelines and social style guides for our clients. So it all comes from really big institutions.
That's an incredible learning piece, right? To have that foundationally.
Yeah.
So when you're talking to clients, do you agree with my perspective, maybe that branding is a little bit misunderstood?
Oh, yeah.
So I'd love to hear about that. What kind of thing or you get or things that come at you like, no, that's not what brand is.
Let's go with just sort of an ideal fit of client, right?
Sure.
So it comes from the top. If you're going to work on brand, you have to dig and go deep inside culture has to match outside perception. That's the way we always look at it. Inside culture is deep. So you have to want to do the work. And it takes me a long time to educate, show examples in the mental health, behavioral health space, not in healthcare. They're used to Cleveland Clinic. We'd got data upon data back before data was at your fingertips. We would get feedback on what our ads were doing, what everything we were doing, what we were working on was doing, because they did tons and tons of research to make sure that the right message was going to the right client at the right time. My point with that is that in behavioral health or in other areas, you have to have a budget built in for that. You have to have a team potentially built in for that. Plus, you have to have a CEO that gets even a piece of it. They don't have to know everything. They have to understand that there is a value in putting a stake in the ground and building a brand with value that's aligned with your core values. So usually our ideal fit, our CEOs are enlightened. They understand marketing. They don't necessarily know how to do it, but they get it. And if they have a team, the team comes along in the process. And they understand that the CEO is trying to make them stand out in the crowd or help them stand out in the crowd, but doesn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
So it takes a minute. It's just not, here is my proposal. This is what you get. And oh, by the way, at the end, you'll have this nailed down. Every branding project's a little nuanced, but we do start with an assessment. If they don't want an assessment, usually it's not a fit for us. Just saying, because that's where we understand. Because we believe I believe, or preach it all the time. I believe that all of these places have a differentiation because no one has the same geography, no one has the same staff, no one has the same deliverables, no one has the same approach, no one has the same process, none of them. Because we're dealing with humans. Humans are taking care of humans. So to take the time to figure out all that, look at your core values, your mission, vision, lay all of that on top of all that other stuff and come see what the patterns are, what is really popping through that builds your culture, or that we could put a stake in the ground and put a brand position around, or a brand promise. There's all kinds of words for building, for how it's defined. Brand promise, brand this, brand that, but really it's putting a stake in the ground and what is the differentiation of your organization.
Totally. Yeah. There was some really good nuggets out of that and stuff that we've even really worked through ourselves as an organization.
Yeah.
Adrienne, my business partner, she comes from more branding background, even though we went the area of straight digital marketing and execution. That was her background. So the three things that really stood out to me in that are the internal culture matching the external. And I think what I'm guessing, because I've seen this with clients and even with ourselves, is there's almost a fear around that, right? Because you have to face the things that maybe aren't great. You have to look at them. You have to dig deep is actually one of our core values. So you have to dig deep into that and really be willing to look at the reality of where you are. And of course, there's going to be positives that come up, but there's going to be pieces that that you challenges too, right? So there's I think a willingness to go there that it's very brave, I think, for organizations is what I'm hearing.
100%.
You're going to go this route.
Yeah.
Payoff's huge, but it's a bravery and willingness to look at yourself deeply so that you can answer those questions, right?
And if we could just so people that are listening can understand what deep is interviewing key leadership, interviewing key stakeholders, focus groups around key staff, especially people that are on the ground doing frontline work.
Yeah.
We've done focus groups at institutions with patients in the room. Then we've looked at, and that's the best, is if you can get any feedback from the clients that you serve and from the people that referred them into the organization. That is the gold right there. Then you look at the competition, you look at all of the brand, just go up high and look at all brand components, every piece of printed anything, digital anything, web anything. And actually in behavioral health, it's really important to figure out how people are getting connected with you. It's like we're working with a new client, and if the way they answered the phone, we didn't figure that out because they went into this phone tree that you couldn't navigate as a person trying to find it. some of those really simple things, intake, how people answer the phone, how does the form get responded to? That is so important, understanding that on the front end. But at the end of the day, you're going to come up with the goal. What do you stand for? What are the common threads that are coming through? Then you're going to get recommendations, but you're going to have to decide. That's some of the hardest part. You're going to have to make a decision. You're going to have to choose one or tweak one that you're going to run with for a while and see how it goes.
One being like your core thing that you're going to focus on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, marketing for sure, branding for sure, you get sick of the work before you, the client, like our clients get sick of the work stuff before anybody else that does out there looking at it or viewing it or interacting with it or engaging with it. So you probably do the same thing.
Yeah, we see it from our yeah, we're redoing our website right now. And I mean, it's, we see it differently, obviously, than other people do. We're always going to have that mismatch. But no, I love that. I love that you even brought it into the phone call. So we have a whole philosophy around that, and it's very similar. It's just a different take on it because we are more on the digital. So we call it removing barriers. I think it's almost 90% now. People have gone through almost the entire sales cycle where they ever talk to somebody. And every time there's a barrier to entry, like I consider that part of the brand. If I can't easily find the information I'm looking for, if you're not answering my questions online, if you don't have transparent information out there, you can tell me you're transparent. But if I don't see that you're transparent, that is to me a barrier, right? That's either not matching what you say you are, or I'm having a different experience. And then I look at that all the way through. Does your website load fast? Am I able to reach somebody? Does somebody get back to me right away? All of those things. And I think for most business owners, they tend to categorize this all in different places, right? Like recruitment's over here and customer service is over here and marketing's over here. And the truth is they're all together.
100%.
It's interesting that we've come to that by totally different angles or totally different sides of the coin, which I think is great. So tell me one of your favorite projects and what, I'm sure it's dealing with the client, right? The client who really embraced it, but what's a favorite project and why?
So lots of you got to understand, I love my clients. I really do.
Yeah.
Even in the hardness of it all. So I just share the original story. So
Sure.
You'll see on our website, there's a gentleman mentioned, Jonathan Lee, and he was our first real behavioral health client. Under 5 million, really smart guy. We did this big assessment for the Center for Health Affairs in Cleveland. And I brought it with me to my first meeting with him. It was so funny. And I just brought it with me. Sometimes I do really odd things when I'm getting ready for a conversation. And for some reason, I thought it would be a good idea. And I said, I know you probably can't afford this or don't want to do all this work. I said, but this is an assessment we did for the Center for Health Affairs. It was a binder that thick,
Right.
I shoved it across the table and let him look at it. And he just, looked at it quickly and pushed it aside. But then I was done with my whole spiel. And when we were leaving, he said, can I look at that? My next meeting, he goes, I want to do this assessment. And so right there, I knew that we were onto something. And he was tough because during assessment, I hadn't really nailed it all down perfectly. I've done many assessments since then. This was our first really in-depth one.
Sure.
It took us a little bit longer. I asked too many questions, but he really got it. He decided on a name change. His board knew they needed a name change, so that came through in the assessment. Owned it, just was really into the process. And so we did an assessment, ended up doing name change, ended up doing a rebrand, ended up rolling it out over a year. For 6 months, we were North Coast Center, soon to be Future Health. And then he was involved in the naming process. We had a whole process we went through for naming. And he was right in it all the way 100% because we did that with the client back then. We do it a little differently now.
Yeah.
And then when we rebrand, that word Signature Health came from him and his story and his promise to his clients. And when you need help now is his line. It's still today and it still stands even in this digital telehealth space. When you need help, they're right there. It was originally founded on, if I raise my hand and I say I need help, you got to get me in. And back in the day, they used to make them wait 3 weeks to get in to even be assessed. And he 10 years ago changed the process, honestly. Said, you raise your
Wow.
hand, say you need help. We're going to get you in for an assessment. You may not see a doc, but you're going to get your meds lined up. When you need help now, that's his line still stands after all this time. We did that in 2010, mind you.
That's
So,
amazing.
yeah, we keep assessing it and we keep looking at it and going, okay, and now he has a full team because he's 100 million, went from not even knowing who clients he served to knows everyone he served. And he's an FQHC, so he's serving people that no one wants to serve. It's amazing what they're doing there. And still tells a story about, he tells a lot of Disney stories because he was brand ambassador. And now he has almost 1,000 people. So it's really hard to know everybody. But if they raise their hand, he's right there talking to them because he lives by that, tagline and that line of copy that he built that many years ago. So, and totally inspirational. And anytime I actually went to a conference and we did a case study share together, and it's super powerful, his belief in what the brand can do. Because the reason I knew he needed an assessment was at that time, Toby Cosgrove was running the Cleveland Clinic. I said, if I push my collateral to him, I want him to know we're not a mom and pop. We're a solid organization. We look like we know what we're talking about and caring for people with mental health issues, substance use, any of those types of things. I want him to take me seriously. That was his goal in the beginning. And he did that.
But he totally accomplished that, right? Yeah.
Yeah. He is, yeah. It gets me choked up every time I talk about him, really.
Well, to know that they intersect of, and it sounds like you're motivated by the same things that we are, which is about making an impact. That's why we chose this niche. We had a couple to choose from, and it was more our personal background stories and just like what we believed in. And we're like, well, if we're going to do this, because this is a hard road of digital and how fast it changes and like the tactics always changing. And so if we're going to do this, let's do it on something that we care about.
Yeah. All our CEOs that we work with are amazing individuals, like hands down, their jobs are so hard. So it's really inspiring to us to look back at my career and say, I get to work with these people. I feel so honored. Seriously.
I think at least from just getting to talk to you and then, I listened to your presentation at the Mental Health Marketing Conference too. You did such a great job. I would guess just that your character shines through as well. And I think that's true. Like even in our businesses, we're going to attract the people that kind of match us. So if that's your value, like they're going to sense that even in working with you, because there's definitely a lot of options out there that maybe aren't going to have that same depth. Yeah. So I think that's part of our job as marketers too. Like we have to differentiate ourselves so that clients are attracted to work with us too. Because we don't want to get that mismatch, right?
No, doesn't work.
Yeah.
So
right. It's not fun. It's not. Yeah. That's so what would you say to people that are listening? A lot of people that listen to the podcast, they don't necessarily have a $5 million company even yet, right? They're in that maybe like smaller process of building their first mental health clinic, maybe wanting to scale beyond that. That is like a lot of our clients at this point. What would you say to them that they could do to help embrace maybe this more brand mindset moving forward?
Don't be afraid, honestly. There's bits and pieces of it that can come through that don't have to be hard and complicated. You have to be present in order to make it work as an owner, operator, or as CEO, or as an executive director. Because we've tried to do it differently. But like in big Cleveland clinics, different, right? We're dealing with the people that can make decisions, but organizations that you can actually peel back that onion a little bit at a time if it's uncomfortable. Just don't be afraid of it. Look inside and then look outside. Does what you say match your culture, your core values, your vision, your mission? Because if it doesn't, there's so much clutter. So we don't even say competition is an issue anymore. It's clutter. It's like the noise and the options that people have to look at, consume, engage with, not engage with. So in that clutter, like we need to figure out what is going to pull us through. So don't be afraid. Just think about that. Does it match? And if it doesn't, there's so many variations on how you can engage with a firm. You don't have to go all in. You don't have to go this way or that way. You don't have to change your brand, but just knowing what you stand for and that you take a position in the market and it's consistent and it's over time, the light will be able to shine through, if people are looking for you. And it supports the digital effort, right? As digital marketers, you have something to work with. You're not just trying to always find the latest and greatest SEO. You stay true because it takes a little bit longer to write rich content with the experts within their businesses and let that pull through in the digital world so that you can get the right people to come to that website or that digital media to get the response you're required. So for me, I don't want it to be scary. It sounds expensive. It sounds like super time consuming, and it can be both, but you need to understand where it fits into your strategic plan. It is part of the planning process.
Absolutely.
And, take your time making a decision, building it in, because you need to have dollars. That's another thing that needs to happen. You have to have dollars either that can be attached to it, that is not going to be a burden for you to invest in this work. I don't like saying it's an expense, but it's an investment in your organization if you do it right.
For people that are having a hard time, and I know we went through this process too, we continually actually are going through this process. We've definitely established our stake, but our process is just, as we've grown a lot, we have to keep refining that a little bit. Does it hold? Because we've moved to a different clientele, we can't help people anymore that are under, a couple $1,000s a month. It's not our core client. So we don't want to message that to them because then they're just disappointed and we're disappointed. So we're working on some of those things. How do we now change that a little bit of putting that out there? Is there any first step that you would suggest? So the most impactful part for us was interviewing our top client. That was the most impactful. What is it about Begin that makes you stay? What are you truly getting value?
100%. Yeah. Especially the clients that are in alignment with the future of your company. That's what we did.
Yeah.
We already knew we wanted to stay, but I wanted to make sure. So we have a video of John on camera on our website because I decided last minute, let's get him on camera, even if we use it or don't use it. But it was so good that I was like, oh my gosh, we're just putting that on the website. I don't care,
Yeah.
But we interviewed our other clients, I think 10 of them, just like we do it, like we interview, recorded, not anything we're going to report on the internet. And we wanted to make sure that the sauce that we were positioning around was still accurate and correct.
Right.
And we just did that about 3 years ago. But as we continue to work and get really comfortable in the space, it's still a hard conversation to have. With CEOs, they're like, "Oh, do I have to do that?"
The truth is, what we found, and I think we only interviewed 6. We did send out a full survey too, but I found the interviews so much more valuable.
Yeah, we didn't do a survey. We just did interviews because I wanted, I have key clients, and I'm still using some of the quotes from that because they're still solid. You know what I mean? We just I get uncomfortable sometimes if they're not 6 months old, but no one is going to want to respond to you that much,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I figure if they're still working with us, the interview quote still stands. That's the way I look at it.
Did you find something similar to what we did, which is that some of the value that you were providing wasn't necessarily stuff that you thought was a big piece? Or because there were some surprises for me. There were some pieces that people were I'm with you because of this. I'm like, oh, that's your deciding factor,
Yeah. Yeah. How we work is another piece. Back in the day when I left the agency, I said I was a designer, right? In the back room, never got to talk to clients. I left because I was I couldn't work like that. I just couldn't work like that. I had to talk to the client. The whole business has always been set up with you get exposure to the client gets exposure to you. You're not responsible for daily, weekly communication with them, but we have kickoff meetings, we have data point meetings, and we have weekly strategy sessions that are 30 minutes to keep everyone in alignment and moving forward in this process because it can get unwieldy if we've got 10 interviews going on over here. We've got a client's digital survey going on over here. We may have an offsite going on over here, a focus group. I feel like that came through too, like how you guys work.
Yeah.
Helps us understand what we're paying for and we understand what we're getting next. Because creative, it's so, it's a hard process to understand what we're
Right.
actually doing. Like, what else? Because our early assessments, we would go away for 8 weeks and then come back and say, oh, here we got this. It's, what are you talking about? They even forgot they hired us probably at that point. You know what I mean? Yeah, we just keep tweaking it to make it, because it is about the experience for them and making it fit in for our clients and making it fit into with their team, with leadership, and allowing decisions to be made. We actually do working meetings, or we kind of, it's really exciting to be doing that kind of work with our clients, like collaboration meetings. We believe a lot of the good work comes in the collaboration. We do not know more than our clients ever. We bring it to a certain level, but they bring out the sauce, they just bring everything to light. So they help us get there. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I feel like we could talk about this all day. I
Yes.
really appreciate you.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you, just even giving some tips for people that might feel overwhelmed by it. And and I just completely agree with that. I think even just taking like what we did, just decided to take a couple hours a month and we're going to ask ourselves these questions and we're going to go deeper, and we're not going to let the business take off to the point where it goes the direction that we don't want it to go. So I think if you don't ask those questions, that's what ends up happening. You end up losing yourself. It's like, why did I even do this? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have such a really strong creative team. They don't allow it, honestly. I can't bring it in. I've done it and tried it and forced it, like not a fit, because I was scared or, whatever it was in that moment. And I honestly, it makes me better as a business owner to bring them. I feel like I brought them the right client so they could shine their best.
Right.
Because they're all in, man. They are all in. If they understand the client and it's a fit, they go all in, 100% hands down. That's what I've learned in the process, definitely along the way.
Yeah, I love that.
And I really feel blessed to be on your podcast. So thank you so much for asking me.
Awesome. Seriously. Yeah, thank you. And thank you for joining us, Beacon Way. Thank you, Kelly, for just this awesome conversation. I feel, again, we could talk about this all day, but I hope it encourages everyone listening, wherever you're at in your business process, that you do have the ability to do something towards your brand and something to bring your internal and your external closer, and to ask yourself some of those deep questions so that you make sure you're aligned with why you're even doing this business, or what your passion is behind it, and what your promise to your clients is. Thank you so much. And thanks for joining me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Beacon Way. We hope you enjoyed it and had some good takeaways. Please subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. And if you've enjoyed the show, please give us some stars on your podcast channel of choice. For more information, tips, and notes from the show, check us out at beaconmm.com. For more information on how Beacon can help market your business, email us at welcome@beaconmm.com.